Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Olga and People of Substance by LemonSkies. And I'm so excited to introduce my guest today, Michael Hoffman. I have known Michael for a number of years, like not in a creepy way, Michael, but followed his work. And I reached out to him to see if he would be one of our featured guests, and he said yes. And I love it when people say yes to me. Michael and I will talk heavily about video, but I'll get into that momentarily and give him a chance to introduce himself first.
Well, thanks, Olga. Thanks for having me here. My journey is like many people, kind of winding. So I started my career as a political consultant. So I grew up in politics. My mom was a prominent politician in Maryland, and I had the political bug, and I did that for a few years out of college, and then I joined a nonprofit. So I became a nonprofit fundraiser early in my career, and spent 4 years in DC, raising money for organizations that do civil rights and social good. And then I decided that I wanted to get into technology, and ended up moving to Israel, spent 5 years doing startups and venture capital. And then when I moved to Chicago, people started to call me and said, "Hey, you know this nonprofit stuff, and you know this technology stuff. Can you help us build a website? Or can you help us do things, with technology?" And I said, "Sure, I can do that." And that's how I started C3 Communications, which was the agency that I founded years ago at this point. And then I had an opportunity to start a tech company, and I left C3 and started a company called Gather Voices, which I can tell you more about as well. So I've been on this journey, and very excited about where I am today on that journey, and excited to talk to you.
So the technology part is super exciting, but what really kind of had me exciting and looking forward to this conversation is that you marry the storytelling with technology. So kind of one of the first questions, and very selfishly I wanted to ask you, is what do you think makes for effective stories? And I do a lot of storytelling through language, through writing. I mean, certainly some videos as well, but primarily writing is my primary medium. How does video differ in telling the story?
Yeah, so let me just start with the story part, and then I'll talk about video. I think that a key to effective storytelling is the orientation most of the time, and the orientation of your donor or your advocate or the person you're trying to activate, putting them in the spot of the hero of the story. Because if you're just saying, look at our organization, look at all this great work we're doing, that's nice, but why should I care about that, right? And if the story's more about how an individual like me was able to make the world better by partnering with this organization, then you can still talk about the great stuff the organization's doing, but the orientation of the story is empowering to the person who's watching it, saying, I can do that. I can save a life. I can change the world. I can clean the ocean. I can do these things, right? That it's not about you, it's about me. And to me, that is the fundamental thing about storytelling, especially for social good work and nonprofits. And it's something that's not necessarily intuitive to marketing people and stuff. Like, you have to remind yourself all the time, and I still have to remind myself, like, where it's not about us. It's not about us. Not about us. So I think that that's something that that we see, and I know you in your work as well see.
Yeah, it's kind of checking your own ego at the door. It's not about look at the amazing work we're doing. It's about empowering somebody else, like you said. And I think there's a lot of willful misunderstanding of what making the donor a hero means, or that people take it a little bit too literally, and the point is slightly different. So
yeah, right. Yeah, and then video. I think one of the things that I knew early in my career, when I was a nonprofit fundraiser, I was raising money for projects abroad that our donors couldn't see or touch or feel or go to, right? So it wasn't something, it's something you had to describe to them. And it was clear that, to me early on, that the best possible thing was these trips. They did like study tours, they called them, where they would get mostly high net worth donors, to go for a week and see the projects on the ground and all that stuff. And that was life changing for those donors. Like they just, it opened their world and their mind. But that's just this tiny, tiny fraction of people who can do that. And, the lift to put that together is obviously massive. And video is the next best thing, right? It's the thing that lets us bring the empathy, into the brain, really, in a way that nothing else really does. And so, that's what really got me on video, was partly that, just a realization that if we wanted to really move people to action, having video could do that in a way, and in a quicker way, and in a in a more shareable way, and all of those things. That was part of it. And then the other part that really got me in the video was the technology change. It started in as early as 2005 was when I really oriented my whole career around video. And that was because 2005, which seems forever ago, was it's hard to even bring my brain back to this moment. But in 2005, people were dialing up to the internet using, an AOL discs were in people's mailboxes and stuff. And 2005 was the year that the broadband, which was DSL at the time, prices went below the dial-up prices. And so in my mind, that was like game over. We're moving really quickly now to a broadband world. And then, asking myself this question, which was, how is the broadband internet different from the internet we've known until then? And it's 100% about video, right? It's like the difference, being able to have this kind of bandwidth means we can have this conversation with video. It means that the internet will become a distribution platform for video. And that meant that every organization needs to understand and use and be involved in video. And until then, if you talk to a nonprofit about video was only people who did television. You're talking about a really thin layer of these child sponsorship organizations, or, the ASPCA or something that did television commercials, or St. Jude, and everybody else was like, yeah, we don't do video because what do we do video for? And so we're still in that transition, I think, where we're shifting the paradigm of what it means to have video, and to have video in-house, to have the video, the talent, and the capacity in-house to do things with video.
So before I ask you about Gather Voices, kind of a trend that I'm seeing is video going from kind of very highly produced, highly polished, camera crew type of production, big to do with big price tag, to much more authenticity. And, I kind of wondered if you could talk about Gather Voices. And I think authenticity is really at the heart of it, but tell me if I'm misreading what I saw.
No, I think that's exactly right. When I started the agency, at C3, the agency still does amazing professional video production, still around doing great work. And, we would get calls that is what got me onto this, was people said, we love those gala event videos you make for us that, are highly polished and cost $50,000 and take 4 months to make, and, whatever. But we need more video now that the internet's become this place. We need more video. And one of the things that has become clear is that this was not true 15 years ago. Today, the more polished something is, the less trusted it is. We're in a world where institutions are less trusted, organizations are less trusted. And so when you see something that's super polished, it's who paid for that? And I mean, that's the subconscious thing, right? Like, who's putting you up to that, and why, and what's their agenda? Whereas if you see someone on their own, that they recorded something on their own iPhone or whatever, it's like, oh, that person's just passionate about that thing. And the trust level goes way up. So people trust their peers more than they trust institutions. And, even the nonprofit brands, even the big nonprofit brands have been hurt by a world where people just trust institutions less. And so we see, if you see a donor saying, I could give my money anywhere, but I discovered this organization and I can't believe how much they can do with the little bit of money that I'm able to provide. And here's how it makes me feel. And here's why I do that. And here's why I give every year. Like, that's going to do more to move somebody else to become a donor and be like, I want to be like that, than the organization saying, look at all this great work that we do. Right. And that's what got me in the Gather Voices, was a realization that the equipment that we have for video, all of a sudden everybody has. And so the idea for Gather Voices actually started 5-6 years ago, where the first feature film that was shot on an iPhone came out. And I had this thought, which was, everybody we want on video is walking around with a professional video camera. So how come we can't get video? And clients were calling me saying, we love those videos you make for us, but how do we get more of it? And so we started at the agency running some experiments and just saying, Olga, make us a video, and, pull out your phone and make a video. And as you can imagine, that did not go well. People don't know what you mean by that, and they don't know what to say, and they don't know what to do, and they don't do it right. And then how do you get the video off their device? Like, that's complicated. And then you need legal releases and all this stuff. So we started to realize, well, what if we could create technology that sits in between an organization and its constituents and lets the organization walk somebody through making the video that they want on that person's device? And so that's what we've built at Gather Voices. An organization can, some of our clients are the Alzheimer's Association and St. Jude and others, and they can bottle up what we call a video request. And when somebody clicks on that video request, the software walks them through making the video that the organization wants. It checks their lighting and their sound. It gives them talking points and enforces a time limit. It has them sign the legal release, all of that. And it delivers the video right back to the organization, where we also had to build a set of tools, because the people who run social media and events and programs are not video people. So we had to build a set of tools that lets a non-video person add branding, add a call to action, create a montage, create a gallery, share the content with a few clicks without having to know how to do anything. And so that's what we've built at Gather Voices. And it's all about, at its core, and it's called Gather Voices because it's all about lifting up the voices of real people in the conversation, the people who usually aren't in that conversation. And it's all about authenticity.
I love that. So basically on my phone, by the way, do you like my lemons? I get the prompt, we need the video to talk about your experience at this gala or this walk or whatever the case may be. And then it just prompts me step by step.
That's right. And you don't have to know how to do Dropbox, and you don't have to do anything, and it automatically finds your camera, and it works as much on a webcam as it does on a phone. So, depending on when you reach somebody and who your audience is, they might be recording like we are today, sitting at our computers to do it. We also have, I know you do some stuff in healthcare. We have, we also do things with QR codes as well. I'll give you an example. One of our clients is Beth Israel Lahey Health in Boston, and they wanted to encourage people to get the COVID vaccine. And so we had this idea, which was that, when you get vaccinated, you have to wait for 15 minutes. So in the waiting area, in their facilities, they had this QR code that said, tell us why you got vaccinated. And so you just point your phone at that QR code, it calls up one of our video requests where somebody says, hey, thanks for coming to make a video. Tell us why you got vaccinated. And I got hundreds and hundreds of videos of people talking about wanting to see their grandkids and all kinds of content that they were able to use in a public health campaign to encourage more people to get vaccinated. So that's an example of, of utilizing people's downtime and space and the moment to be able to collect content.
Although I thought 15-minute waiting period was more of a suggestion. not a requirement. That's how I took it. But so, as you were talking about video, there is such a thing as video reluctance. I feel like so many, I don't know if that's an official term, but it seems like a lot of people are just really hesitant to get on video. And, you're obviously very comfortable doing that. You do that for a living. It's taken me kind of a hot second. I'm getting more comfortable, but I still have to kind of take a deep breath before I press live. So how do people get over that hump and just get more comfortable speaking into the camera?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think that, I think part of it's just personality. There are people who are just more extroverted and, just more comfortable than others. So I think there's just that. But
So tequila.
What's that?
So tequila, right?
Tequila, that's right. Mm-hmm. Drinks always helps. Helps get you comfortable, but the messaging might kind of go downhill at that point. But this is something we think a lot about and we work on. And one of the things that we did that we realized early on was a video introduction to the video request has a huge impact. So instead, when you click on that link that we send, or it's embedded into an existing workflow, most often, the first thing you see is a video of someone saying, "Thanks for coming to make a video." And that does a couple things. One is it tells them what to do, but it's also this kind of social proof and peer influence of, oh, he made a video. It's just at his desk. I can do that, And so it's not like I'm in this vacuum. I don't see anything. I just see text and you're telling me to do a video. No, it's here's a video. I can do that. I can make a video. And so that's one thing that we use, to get over that. We also now have things in our platform that let people schedule. So sometimes when you're looking at your email or you click a link or you're on a page, you don't feel like you're ready to make the video because you're not in a good place for it. You want to put on your makeup, whatever it is, you want to be ready for it. So we let people text themselves the link to make the video or schedule it. So we'll link right to their calendar and be able to schedule that for them. So those are things that we're working on. The other thing we've noticed is, again, that peer influence has a big thing. So we have a product called the Hive, which is a gallery product. And so if I see, if I'm a donor, let's say, or I'm an employee and I see a whole gallery of other people like me who've done it, I'm much more likely to do it than if I don't see any of that. And so the idea of just using that psychology of social proof has a big impact as well. And, I think, as you said, like, you're probably more comfortable now doing this than you were the first time you did it, right? And so I think it's also just about reps. It's like, how do we get people to practice and feel like the stakes aren't that high? Oh, that's the other thing I should mention. The end user, the person recording in our software, controls that recording until they're happy with it. So the organization doesn't see anything until that person's happy with it. And we message that up front. So you can do as many takes as you like relax, it'll be fine. And that's another way that we help people get over that.
So, it's interesting that you said that. I mean, my comfort level goes up tremendously with having a friend on camera with me, because then it's not me trying to convey, it's more of a conversation. So it just kind of puts me at ease. But then also, I have one go to record these, right? Or live stream them if they're going straight live. So it's sort of like not being able to do multiple takes in some ways takes the pressure off. It is what it is. And, we got it or we don't got it. And that we just kind of have to go with that. So
yeah,
I find that less stressful. Yeah. Instead of trying to.
The other thing we've been thinking about, again, it's like there's no one right answer to all of this, but like when you record in our software, you see yourself on the screen, like I'm seeing myself now. And, there's some research that says, well, if I'm less seeing myself, then I'm less self-conscious about it. So, we've thought about taking that big video and actually making it much smaller up by the camera. So you can kind of see yourself, but, it's not the thing that's dominating the screen where you're really self-conscious about that. So you're more talking. And, I've seen other messaging platforms and other things where you don't see yourself at all unless you like hover over your image or something like that. So those are all things we're experimenting with, that we're working on, and trying to I will say one other piece, which is the context really matters. So when you ask somebody to record a video, the first thing we say to our clients is why. Why should they record a video? What's in it for them? What's the point of it? What's the, so if you tell me, if I'm a donor and you tell me that on average, if I make a video talking about why I care about this, I can quadruple my dollars because that's the impact that it's going to have on other donors. That could be really motivating for me, right? To say, yeah, I wish I could give more, and here's one way to do that. There are lots of different whys, and I think figuring out that why for someone, is the number one thing that gets people over, reluctance.
So before we move off the subject of video, I want to bring up a couple of years ago. This used to be my favorite thing. I think they always showed it at lunch at N10, the DoGooder Awards, Video Awards. So how did that come about? And do you have any plans on bringing it back?
Yeah, thank you. How did it come about? It came about with the idea, again, more about this social proof and peer influence. We at C3, we wanted more people, more organizations, more nonprofits to understand the power of video, to understand that video can actually raise your profile, increase the donations, have a real impact, spread empathy, all of that. And the best way to do that was to find the folks who were doing that really well and to lift those up and put those in front of a big audience. And so we started the DoGooder Video Awards early on, and then luckily had an arrangement with YouTube for some time where it was sort of the official nonprofit awards in the YouTube space, and then with N10 to make the NTC conference the home of the awards, and to do that. And so that was great. I mean, being able to get hundreds and hundreds of submissions, and to have judges review different videos and understand them. I think it's tough because today we're surrounded by so much video content, and think about things like TikTok and YouTube and other things, and so I don't know, if it would have the same meaning that it did when we did it before. So right now there's no plans, to bring it back, but I do think the idea of modeling for other organizations what works is really helpful. And so, I think there's definitely a place for it. If somebody wants to revive it, I will be a free consultant on how to run this awards and put it together. I'd be happy to pass it off to another entity that if somebody felt like it was time to bring it back.
If there's like red carpet, like fancy.
Well, we did we experimented with something called DoGooder Local, which was amazing, which was run in Philadelphia and in Los Angeles. And the idea with DoGooder Local was to pair local filmmakers with local nonprofits and to give them like 48 hours to create a film that then got online play and then culminated in an in-person event in that community where the nonprofits and the filmmakers and the community came together to talk about these amazing projects. And so that was really terrific. And I wish we could have figured out how to sustain and scale that, because there's nothing like that kind of on the ground stuff, and actually just getting stuff made and having all this, matching all this talent, the people who love to tell stories and love to do video with the organizations who mostly don't have those assets and resources.
And then, sometimes you achieve more when you have a finite amount of time to really do something quickly.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, about 6 months ago or so, I want to ask you about this. You went on this massive road tripping adventure through the U.S. You're back in Chicago now, but you really kind of covered coast to coast. So can you talk about that and share maybe like the funniest, the craziest moments from that trip?
Sure. I think the combination of COVID and remote work with the moment of my children being old enough to not be at home all came together really to go, why are we doing winter in Chicago again? That was kind of the initial impetus. And if you've ever spent winter in Chicago, you know what I'm talking about. So we decided to go on the road and with the dog and drive everywhere, and started in Baltimore, which is where I'm from, and I grew up with my dad. And then we did New York City and Aspen and New Orleans and Los Angeles. And it was fantastic. And, I would say the most some of the best and most surprising things was in LA, we discovered pickleball. I don't know if you know
I
pickleball, but
just got my pedals yesterday. They
that's so
literally just
funny.
arrived in the mail.
So now, like, totally addicted to pickleball, and Santa Monica is like ground zero for pickleball. You can basically show up any day, every day at Memorial Park in in Santa Monica and play pickleball for free. And it's fantastic, and just got completely addicted to that. So that was a surprise, and so excited to continue that world. And then just came back from 2 months in New Orleans and had the best time in New Orleans, because April and May is when French Quarter Festival and Jazz
Mhm.
Fest is, and if you're into the music there. And I had the best food I've ever had in my life in New Orleans for 2 months. Um, so that was really, really terrific. And, I would say the hardest part is setting up a remote office in every place. So if you look at what's in our car, like, we can only bring what we can fit, and half of it is like monitors and
Mhm.
microphones and and in each place we got to kind of build our own home office type setup or whatever it is. And but it was great. I feel really privileged to have done it. And we didn't do it in an expensive way. We basically looked at what does it cost us, what's our rent or mortgage payments in Chicago, and how do we make that the same in these different cities. And we drove everywhere. And um, so but it was fantastic. So feel really privileged to have been able to see some parts of the country, meet new people, and have those experiences.
That just sounds amazing. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate all your insights. This was really fascinating, and hopefully, do-gooders will be back and gather voices. Check it out. It's really, just really neat. It's bringing humanity and technology together. So I just absolutely love the concept. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad you invited me on.